Right now, the soft estimate is there's 200,000 missing Mexican nationals right now. They've been disappeared, kidnapped. 90% of those cases go unsolved, which is just insane. These poor people have literally no help. By them having the power to disappear people, that's how they actually hold power over these like local communities. If they're able to go to the population and then forcefully recruit young men, then the labor never stops. The network doesn't stop. So we were in this very rural area. He says, I found the bones of my son, and we found 25 other bodies. It's so dangerous that they need Mexican military to be escorted to these areas, to these clandestine graves. We could literally be lit up by the cartel any day.
Something evil is going on in Mexico right now, and almost nobody in the mainstream media is talking about it. Over the past decade, hundreds of thousands of people have gone missing throughout the country, most of them in cartel-dominated regions like Jalisco, Sinaloa, and Baja California. I sat down with award-winning journalist Jorge Ventura, who reveals how Mexican cartels are kidnapping people, mostly young men, into the ranks of their organizations, then killing them and burying their bodies in unmarked graves throughout Mexico. Jorge has traveled down to Mexico to meet with the families of the disappeared, who have dedicated their lives to locating the corpses of their loved ones, and who are demanding justice from the Mexican government, who are, of course, attempting to silence them. Make sure to go subscribe to his new YouTube channel, where he puts out groundbreaking news coverage. A link to that will be in the description below. Ladies and gentlemen, he's literally risking his life to bring you these stories. My brother, Jorge Ventura, right here on The Connect with Johnny Mitchell. Last year, when we had you on, I think it was a month into Trump's first term.
Yeah.
He had just locked the border down. Crossings fell off by like 96%, which I think they're ticking back up.
They're ticking back up. So the cool thing, bro, is if you want, we could start there, and then we could, we'll get into the geopolitical and with the Trump.
Oh, we already started, baby.
Oh,
we just started with that first question.
Well, now we're in this kind of Trump 2.0 of his mass deportation plan. But now the administration is like scaling back. We saw the huge, I think like the big kind of difference is like the last 6 months, Kristi Noem was just empowered by the Trump administration. And then that led to her empowering Bovino. And they try to do this brass, like, we're boots on the ground. They call it roving patrol. So the roving patrol actually, what people don't know, is started off in Southern California first. So Bovino would literally, and his border patrol agents would be literally driving around LA area. And if you're brown, if you're like filling up your gas tank or whatever, they could literally just come out and ask for your ID. So that was the first roving patrol, and that started off last year, but it kind of graduated when he started doing this whole, hey, we're going into Chicago, Operation Midway Blitz. We went into Louisiana, and then they went into Minneapolis. So she empowered Bovino, and then essentially what we saw was the battle, and this is what I analyze more, is media optics. And the optics of Border Patrol fighting crowds, throwing tear gas. And I'm not saying that some of these crowds behaved, many of them agitized and followed Border Patrol and interfered in some of the operations, but just the optics and the headlines were such a negative hit to Trump. And then we started to see the talk of deportation really pull extremely low. We started to see like Latinos who supported Trump heavily, especially when it comes to deportation operations, start to scale back because they were like, hey, we thought you were going after the worst of the worst. And really, Minneapolis was the end of it. I don't mean the end of it, but that was almost like the killing of the mass deportation agenda. Okay. We saw Kristi Noem fired from that. Right. Bovino is now being essentially like forced to retire. Holman came in, and now it's all about optics cleanup. And we're not going to see any more Border Patrol kind of roving patrols. It's going to be ICE and more now back to we're just going to going after the worst of the worst. We're not going after the tamale lady. So it seems like this whole thing has really backfired on the Trump administration from the voter perspective. And then the other challenge is his base doesn't care. His base wants those deportations. Yeah. So there's just like this multiple angle to like this fascinating immigration story.
There's two facets to immigration and border enforcement, right? There's the people that are in the country, and then there's the actual border itself. So putting aside everybody that's in the country and ICE looking for the tamale lady or actually going after the gang member with the murder on his rap sheet, right? Talk about the border itself. What did they do to seal it off? Like, why did deportations I mean, it's pretty obvious Biden was just like opening it up. I mean, the what is it called? The wait in Mexico policy, the amnesty. Mexico, amnesty was the big one. The reason that they were able to move so many bodies, the cartel with the Mexican police, that's why they were able to move so many people across the line under the Biden administration. Why did the numbers scale down so much on the actual crossings? And do you see those ticking back up? And if so, then why?
So what's interesting is when I first came on and we talked about this, like you mentioned, it was like the first 30 days, and they came down with executive order after executive order. The big one was remain in Mexico. The other one is like simply that they just follow the same federal law. So under Biden, technically, like when someone crosses illegally, they're supposed to be actually like arrested and charged, the whole thing, deported. But under Biden, they were being paroled. So the Trump administration essentially hasn't really changed anything. They're just following that federal law. So meaning like now when you cross illegally, there is no parole, there is no release into the country that we saw under Biden. And I remember like back in March 2021 was when I first hit McAllen. Very first time reporting on the border, and the word border crisis started to hit the news. And I remember I ran into 300 migrants. And I remember running into like women and children and stuff. And when I approached them, I was shocked because they were like, "Where is the Border Patrol?" And I go, "Oh, he's like down a couple blocks." And they go, "Oh, can you take us to him?" And I go, I was like, I kind of had like a mind app. I was like, wait, no, aren't you supposed to want?
This is new?
Yeah, I'm like, no, don't you guys want to run away? You're supposed to be telling me to like avoid him. They're like, no, we want to go to him. So under Biden, that was like the first kind of like click in my head. I'm like, oh, they're being paroled. Right. They want Border Patrol. So essentially under Trump is they really didn't change much. They just followed federal law, but the remain in Mexico became a huge one because it forces some of these migrants that could have court cases in the U.S. to literally remain in Mexico and have to wait. And that deters illegal immigration. The other thing is that they just came out and were very like aggressive with the language. Obviously, like if you go on social media, they were like blasting out the deportation videos. They were making like memes about it. Right. And the game changer was, this is Trump's mass deportation plan, but Trump, like, at the end of the day, he's like a golf club Republican. He's like not that aggressive on deportations. Like if his CEO buddies want to protect workers and stuff, he'll do it. The one who's like the mastermind behind this, and we could talk about foreign policy too, but on mastermind on this is Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller's the one who had meetings with all DHS, all the higher ups, and goes, I need 3,000 arrests per day in the interior, and I don't care if they have criminal record or not. And that's where ICE was like, that is like not possible. Like there's no way we could get 3,000 arrests of like just criminals. We're going to have to obviously do collateral. So that is when Stephen Miller really took advantage of that. But on the border, they didn't change much, literally enforcing law. And obviously when you blast out the social media of deportations, that's going to deter migrants from coming. The other part, though, is full-on blitz. And this is more where Marco Rubio comes in. Full-on blitz on Claudia Sheinbaum. Hit her on all fronts, meaning hit her on tariffs, hit her on fentanyl, hit her on... Like, we're going to just... They call it flood the zone, and that came actually from Bannon. Yeah, Bannon wanted to put the flood the zone. Right. So they put that same policy, that same game plan on Sheinbaum. Flood the zone on her to the point where she got pressure to put like 10,000 troops on the northern border, crack down on fentanyl, turn over all these kind of cartel plaza bosses. And that's when we kind of see more of Mexico than say, we're going to have to step up on the illegal immigration front. Right.
Okay,
so that's where we saw the crossings really go.
But on the border, it's not like they built more wall. It's not like they employed more border agents. It's not like they have some new technology that they didn't have under Biden.
Well, they deployed National Guard. Trump did militarize some parts of the border. So right now, parts of Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico, literally like the Department of Defense has taken over, and they put like actual like soldiers on the ground. So if you're like a migrant and a smuggler crosses you in that area, you're not only gonna get deported, but you're gonna get charged by the DOD. The other part now that they did is, and I don't know if this deters too much, but they started hitting some of those Mexican cartel drones with lasers on that border through the military, through Pete Hegseth. So all of that deterred the human bodies.
Can you talk about the drones? You mean the drones that the cartels would use to help them with the smuggling?
Yeah. So for context for the audience, like just in the past 6 months alone, on the U.S.-Mexico border, they recorded at least 600,000 drone incursions. So these are drones coming from Mexico into the United States. They obviously can't take all of them down. They can't shoot all of them down. But in certain areas of the border, like some sources are starting to leak that the U.S. military is starting to use lasers. And I don't know this for sure, but I think that's why like it was like a month ago when that whole El Paso story came out with like something was in the air and like, oh, we're shutting down the airport for 10 days and it ended up being like a couple hours. I think something happened with a laser, but they thought they shot a drone when it was something else. Okay. So they did militarize the border, you could say.
Okay. Now, illegal crossings, getaways.
Yes.
I see that they are ticking back up.
Yes.
Do you think that's just kind of naturally going to happen after a year of just massive pressure? Because you can't keep up that kind of militarized. You can't be on 10 constantly, forever, indefinitely. Do you think that's just kind of naturally like some of the law enforcement gets exhausted or gets deployed to elsewhere in the country? Do you think that, or do you think the cartels now are finding new routes, perhaps, in the more rural parts of the border?
Well, it does seem like right now they're focusing on more the attacking those rural areas, especially the no border wall areas. I was like there like literally just a week ago, California border reporting. I was doing a more report on the smuggling now. Cartels moving in those special interest aliens, especially from Middle East and China. But the same day that I was there doing that report, an official from Texas Department of Public Safety, so back on the Texas border, notified me, said, hey, this is extremely weird. He's like, the crossings have been basically dead. Obviously, you're still going to have Mexican cartels moving the smaller groups.
Yeah.
These are more Mexican nationals, camouflaged. He's like, we're noticing that some of these cartels are moving in Pakistani nationals. So they started catching Pakistani nationals in Starr County. But when they caught those Pakistani nationals, the cartel was making sure that each of those nationals had either a fraudulent or it was a real permanent ID, permanent resident ID issued by the Mexican government. So I'm thinking the cartels coordinating some areas with Mexican government to essentially make sure that these special interest aliens have either fraudulent documents or they'll issue them the real documents like that they can legally travel through Mexico. But once they get to that Tijuana, California border, they'll be smuggled in. Most of them are destroying their documents too before they enter. Wow. Something that I've been reporting on. So there's that little element now where we're seeing kind of that increase of the special interest alien. And if you're a cartel member, it's like, why would you not? Like the Pakistani, they'll pay up to $50,000 to be smuggled. I know Chinese national highs I've heard is up to 35, but I know from that Middle East, they'll go up to 50 G's to make it over. And then Nicaragua is a key country because Nicaragua isn't requiring that visa from them. So Nicaragua is becoming that kind of hub, that hub for. I mean, it was under Biden massively the way the cartels and smugglers use Nicaragua. Wow. But Nicaragua is a key country, bro, in all of this. I'm telling you.
So the Pakistanis and the Eastern migrants from Asia they fly to Nicaragua, and then they travel overland up to the border.
And many of them will get fraudulent travel documents from Turkey. So they'll get issued fake passports and stuff from Turkey, whatever the documents that they'll need, and all they need to literally do is land in Nicaragua. Nicaragua does not require a visa. Also, Nicaraguan officials kind of know the way the game is being played.
Right.
I remember I interviewed a Cuban under Biden back in like 23, and he was like, hey man, and he's like, in Cuba, a one-way ticket to Nicaragua is $6,000 for us because they know that we're never coming back. So he's like, then he said, it's kind of an inside joke that when you get on a Cuban flight to Nicaragua, that they'll like, when you land, they'll be like, hey guys, enjoy your vacation. We'll see you soon, knowing that, they're obviously coming up to the United States. So Nicaragua plays like a huge hub in this that like a lot of people don't know. And there's a lot of connections with like Venezuela and Iran right now.
So I've just seen clips of yours and heard rumors, and to me it sounds like a lot of fear mongering. But let's talk about it because maybe it's not. The worry, of course, is that the Hezbollah and Iranian terror cells being smuggled by the cartels through the border. Have we seen that? So can we verify any arrests that have actually collared some of these guys, or is that just
on our reporting on the ground? So when I'm talking about this sleeper cell, 90% of like the reporting on this is fear mongering. It's really like pro-war, headlines, like anything to really get like the American people kind of amped. The clear two example when I read the story, I already knew it, was the one like it came out 2 weeks ago, was ABC News. The whole thing with Iranian drones were going to hit California. I mean, you don't need to be a military expert to know like that's like not even legit. Ended up being that ABC News got an unverified tip and then still led with that story.
Yeah.
So when you have that, obviously American people, like anything that comes out of that is it's a psyop.
Yeah.
So back on the border, so around when I started covering the border crisis, the first year and a half, two, I wasn't running to any individuals from all over the world. It was Central American, and then that second year we got hit with that Venezuelan wave, which was like felt like it was nonstop. Around 23, I was the first reporter. I got tipped off of the Chinese national surge in South Texas. So I got a sheriff calls me. He's panicking. He's like, we have he called it a 1,000% spike in Chinese national apprehension. So I go to South Texas, and this is when I start trying to organize this reporting of like, how is this Chinese population making it in to Texas? But also this Chinese population is coming in like their clothes were like fresh. I wasn't seeing what I was seeing with Venezuelans, Guatemalans, Nicaraguans, Salvadorians, et cetera. So once I started connecting with the Chinese nationals, I was able to get into their WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, and interviews, and found that, just long story short, cartels from Ecuador and Mexico were basically banking in that these Chinese nationals would fly to Ecuador visa-free and then would make it into the U.S. So I broke this down on that episode. So I started covering that. I was hitting that Chinese angle hard, and then what started to kind of surprise me a bit was when I would go to the Mexican side and then started working with my Mexican fixers on the story, is that all the Chinese nationals were being ordered by the cartel to destroy their documents on the Mexican side. So when American authorities were apprehending these individuals, there's already the language gap, Mandarin, English, but they had no identification. There wasn't anything to verify. And even if there was, China won't share that information with the United States. So they're considered special interest because they require that extra security screening. Then we started to see the surge in the Middle East. So migrants from Syria, Turkey, Pakistan, Iran, all those countries started to come in. So I went back into Mexico to understand why this was happening. And then we found that Nicaragua connection, and same thing. They were paying cartels up to $50,000 to be smuggled, documents destroyed. The California border plays particularly an interesting angle to the story because of that Tijuana airport. Many of the special interests in Chinese, when they enter Mexico, they all had to go through different cities, but one of the main one was Puerto Vallarta. They would get to Puerto Vallarta, and then from Puerto Vallarta, they would get to TJ. From TJ, smugglers would then coordinate their travel to at least they'll get to Tecate, Mexico. And if anyone's been to that Tecate area, it's extremely dangerous on the smuggling area. But on the other side, there's no wall. And then the other side is Jacumba Hot Springs, California. So if you actually just go to the Mexican side, which you could just see this all in my reporting, once again, the Middle Eastern migrants are same thing, ordered to destroy a bunch of their documents. So I was working with some law enforcement sources, and since 22, when we saw that surge, like on the California Border Patrol, I think the first year they apprehended like 98 individuals on the FBI terror watch list. So these are individuals with legit terrorist ties, entered through the southern border, and then via smuggled through the Mexican cartel. So law enforcement was able to get those connections, but they're like, we've just never seen anything like that. So since 22, before that on the California border, they were getting maybe 10 a year of special interest aliens, and then it went up to 200. Wow. So they were getting 200 per year from literally all over the world, individuals with terrorist ties. But the thing is, they were destroying their documents, and they were being paroled into the United States. So are these guys going to be like legit activated sleeper cells? Like, they get a green light and they're going to blow up a boat. I mean, that's all unclear. Like that's going to be on law enforcement to investigate. Right. My angle was, I was reporting on this since 2022, and we've matched it up with the sources with our reporting. Yeah. And this is like, if there's going to be like any actual national security threat, it was this. It was via southern border. So it's no overhype. And then we made that huge connection. That Tijuana airport has played like a huge key role.
So it sounds like these migrants from special interest countries have been on the watch list, but there has none that have had a record of terrorist acts And it doesn't sound like any terrorist acts have been committed by people from those countries that have been smuggled in.
Exactly.
As of yet.
As of yet.
I see.
So that's where our reporting focused on. And
Understood.
then,
I just wanted to get that clear because
a lot of this stuff is overhyped. It's pro-war. It's like this like it's very like sci. Like I said, when that air like no one believes that drones were going to hit the California coast and Santa Monica was going to blow
When
up.
I saw that, I'm like, you guys aren't even trying.
Yeah, you're not even trying.
Not even getting creative.
And then, like I said, like the same week we were there, Texas guys were a little bit alert of like, why we're getting this on this week, we're getting special interest in Starr County. It was super unusual, and that they were finding these individuals with the permanent resident cards issued by Mexican government. So there's just like a lot of connections.
Right.
My reporting always, like I always hit more hard is on Chinese because of all the illegal, like because I follow the illegal marijuana trade, and then to find out how infiltrated the Chinese. And right now the Chinese and Mexico got a very cozy relationship. If you go to Mexicali, it's basically mini Beijing now.
Yeah.
If you, like I just crossed right now, San Isidro into San Diego, if you just go through that port of entry on foot, you used to go and like all the signage obviously in English because it's Americans going in. Now it's half of it in English and the other one's in Mandarin.
Well, how do you think they got Hong Kong from? Where do you think they got Hong Kong and Tijuana from, dude?
So,
the Chinese relationship.
So like, yeah, there's more interest. I'm always interested in the Chinese angle.
So it sounds like we're back to just healthy, small-scale, localized human smuggling.
As
the way things used to be.
Yes, yeah. So right now they're smuggling, but it's once again it's back to smaller groups.
Yeah.
Back to obviously you want to
individuals.
Completely evade authorities.
Yeah.
You're not going to see too many like the families being smuggled. It's always going to be individuals. So Starr County, and right now in California, they're starting to see that that surge a little bit. So I'm a bit fascinated to see how the Mexican authorities react.
Yeah. Well, I think just like drugs, when they see us attacking, basically starting World War III in the Middle East, a whole planet away, they're like, their focus is off. Go. Send them. I think they think like that.
They do. And the thing right now is Trump and Rubio, I think in their vision, they want to change the New World Order. And they feel like China's having a huge influence. So that's why they're getting involved in all these foreign entanglements. So we're war right now with Iran. We still have Ukraine and Russia. And right now they got Cuba on the eyesight. And then they're flooding the zone on Mexico. Now, from my reporting, and this is where I was trying to hit on, is the Trump administration wants to take down the cartel. They want that sexy headline. Marco Rubio wants it too. And I think, I don't know how it'll look, but it looks like at some point this year, we'll see some type of U.S. military troops on the ground. Yeah. CIA is already flying drones over Sinaloa, Jalisco. This is all stuff that we know. It's nothing new. The mistake that the Trump administration and Marco Rubio make is they went to Sheinbaum and said, we need you to curb fentanyl trafficking. So obviously it's Sheinbaum. They're doing it. They're curbing it. They're getting all these raids. Even last night, they did like a big one in Tijuana, and the numbers look sexy. Yeah. They're turning over guys. It looks sexy.
Fentanyl's getting weaker.
Fentanyl's getting weaker. It's all those headlines are the sexy headlines. The issue that they are not doing, and I don't get how you just don't attack it, is you're never going to dismantle these networks until you solve the disappearing people crisis. That's really the bottom line of it, because you could take out all the leaders all day. We could take out El Chapo could snitch on this person, and Mencho could die. All the movements could happen. But if the recruitment is still there, if they're able to go to the population and then forcefully recruit young men, then the labor never stops. The network doesn't stop. Yeah, the heads could change. And that's one thing that I've been learning more now that I'm covering this missing persons crisis. In Mexico, a few years ago, it caught my attention. And I remember I went down to Baja California and I met a man named Eddie Carrillo, whose son was kidnapped by the cartel. His son's a U.S. citizen, was living in Monterey Park, California, came to visit his parents, kidnapped by the cartel. And I remember I met Eddie, and he was like, that moment was his purpose. And then after that, he started the Todos Somos Eric Carrillo Foundation. And he basically started this foundation where he set up all these parent search groups in Baja California, and basically made it his mission to go out and find these kids that the cartel has disappeared, that the government has already gave up helping them, police won't help them out. It's so dangerous that they need Mexican military to be escorted to these areas, to these clandestine graves. And I remember I was taken aback by that story. And I remember just like promising myself, like, when I have the means, I'm going to come back and we're going to go embed it.
And you did it.
And they did it, yeah.
So let's get into it. How bad is the disappearing persons crisis in Mexico?
I don't even think words, there's like no words. Right now, the soft estimate is there's 200,000 missing Mexican nationals right now. They've been disappeared, kidnapped. In Mexico right now, 90% of those cases go unsolved, which is just insane. These poor people have literally no help. And this is right here, like the number one issue with the cartel story is by them having the power to disappear people, that's how they actually hold power over these like local communities. Obviously the extortion and everything else is other angles, but this is the number one because they go after the community's youth. The boys, particularly like every state is different. We're in Jalisco, Sinaloa, the boys that are being forced into the cartel, majority are being forced to be gunmen for the cartel.
Right.
But in Baja, what I found is the majority are just being forced to be drug runners. Because that's literally what all they care about. They need gunmen? Of course they need gunmen. But right now, drug smuggling in Baja, that Tijuana border, that's number one. So they need drug runners and they need drone operators. The women are getting pushed into the sex trade, and that's a whole nother dark world that the young women are being pushed into. But like even the start of this year, so like start of 2026, boom, off the bat, authorities found 32 missing people in 15 different clandestine graves just in Baja California. Then they arrested like 4 TJ police officers, finding that those police officers were not being forced, but they were working for the Tijuana cartel, and they were disappearing people. So then you have the law enforcement angle to it. So I just literally went back into Baja California, met again with Eric Carrillo, who's the main organizer of this parent search group. When I met Eric, he hasn't found his son yet. And I remember like the locals I was with were like, this guy's never going to find his son, man. It's
So Eric Carrillo, his son, Eddie, the one who's missing, why would Eddie, an American, a Mexican-American from LA, why would he be disappeared?
So according to Eddie's a daddy, and then Eric's his son who's missing. But according to Eddie, his son was disappeared after a night out, was basically forced by the cartel to be a drug runner. They tried to do a ransom, and obviously these people are dirt poor. And then after that, they literally just stopped answering and then literally disappeared his son. What was interesting is I went back last week and once again embedded with Eddie, and Eddie pulled me to a side, and he was like, I just want to let you know, in 2024, I found the bones of my son. And I was like, wait, what? He says, we got a tip of a clandestine grave in Rosarito. He says, I found the bones of my son, and we found 25 other bodies. Went to go get those bones tested, and it was his son. And then, I mean, when you, as an American, like, there's like no words for that. You know, I'm a dad to like a 4-year-old. I can't even imagine that. And then even in that day, all these parents who have no help, like Eddie had their back, like handing out shovels. Eddie, I mean, all the little things you need. And like the day that I went embedded, Mexican military denied their escort. So knowing that day, they said, we could literally be lit up by the cartel any day. Particularly that area was controlled by CJNG, and those disappearances were linked to that cartel. Right. So we were in this very rural area that I can't say on camera.
It's private land?
It was actually public clandestine.
Okay.
So in this area, they found 4 bodies in the past 2 months. So that day I was in that area with this group. We were denied military escort. At any time, it could be over for us. And I met this one dad, Jorge Ventura. His son was disappeared in May 2022 with his brother-in-law. Same story. Where they were actually lured with the fake business model, with the we need telemarketers. You know, we need you can make calls, and if you can speak English, call center. They got lured by CGNG and TJ, and then got disappeared. Jorge Rangel was interesting because he had like these tears in his eye all day as he's like just like going through this dirt. And he's like, it's gotten to a point, he's like, I quit my job. He's like, every day, this is all I do. And he's like, my wife's here too. I met his wife, and the strength of this couple, I was like in tears. And I remember like the wife telling me, she's like, this is hell. This is a nightmare. She's like, could you imagine if the cartel killed your son? At least give us the body. Right. It's already done. At least give us the moment to say goodbye, or at least give us the moment that we know the answers. And he's like, they won't even give him that. They won't even give him that. And it was those stories that I really wanted to get out there.
So you went to a grave, I believe, where they were digging up, they found bones.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that.
So that one, basically, like, so a year ago, I went in bed with these same search groups. But here we didn't find bones. We found the bodies of 4 migrants that narco traffickers literally gunned down, headshot, execution style. So with these same search groups. So that just shows you, like, these parent search groups are actually, like, literally making a difference in these clandestine graves. So we were finding even migrant bodies in the TJ border.
What would be the point of killing migrants?
That one I don't know. So that must have been some unsolved altercation.
So Eddie found the bones of his child, his son.
Yes.
Do they find the cause of death? What do you do with bones? Do you take them to the authorities? Do they do forensics down there?
So they do forensics, but for people who don't know, it's like a huge. Their forensics is like, they're obviously not up to the United States, but their bones was enough to identify. We were able to get an ID, but at the bone you don't get cause of death anymore. And the stories are like, I mean, like I said, they were heartbreaking. The thing that it did remind me of, like, from the reporter perspective, like when I was like with Jorge Ventura and he was like looking for his son, was it took me back to July 5th of last year. And for people who don't know, I was the first national reporter to go to Kerrville, Texas, when the flooding hit. If you guys remember, the first headline that came out of there was 20 little girls missing in Camp Mystic. For people who don't know, that flooding killed like over 140 people. It was like 100 kids that died in that flooding. Many went missing for like several days. But the next day on July 5th, I was in this area where like their homes were completely like literally lifted and then were
swept
taken
away.
And I remember there was a Mexican man who was digging in these holes, like going through these trenches. And one of the neighbors comes up to me. She goes, "Hey, that man is looking for his nephew." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, he knows he's gonna find his nephew dead, and he knows like no authorities right now are helping him. He's looking for him, and it's just him in a shovel looking for his nephew. And in that moment was like this, like almost like it was like, to me it was like, that's what real love is actually, you know.
But that's what Mexicans have to deal with all of the time.
Day.
No help from authorities. And actually, according to Ed Calderon, now, especially in places where this has really been on the media's radar, like in Jalisco with, these mass graves and tens of thousands of people that disappeared out there, especially in the last couple of years, right? And it tracks as homicides go down, disappearances go up. According to Ed, authorities actively try to stop these search groups, actively try to impede them. So,
and I've already seen it myself. Even that day that we went with that search group, when the Mexican military denies an escort, they're doing that to also deter the search group from going out there.
Right.
So authorities play a massive role in attempting to stop these.
Yeah.
That's why I think, and we're trying to do it, highlight in our reporting, is the Trump administration could do the target all the leaders they want. They could even blow boats off the coast. They could even put troops on the ground. CIA could fly drones all they want. But if they don't go after this issue, the disappearing crisis, the labor network of these cartel groups is never going to stop.
Right.
They're always going to have power over their local communities. Right now, if you go to Tijuana, I encourage anyone to do this. Go to the migrant shelters. You're not going to find. I mean, yeah, you'll find some from Central America. The majority of people in migrant shelters in Tijuana right now are Mexicans, and then ask them why they're in the shelter with a Salvadorian. Because the cartel took over my ranch, because the cartel took over my state. And now I'm a migrant in my own country. And that's the other issue too, Johnny, is the crime culture is different. Meaning that there's a woman out here, her name is Zoe Carmen, and I've been following her story since 2023. Her mom is Maria del Carmen. Her mom is a Mexican-American, U.S. citizen, went to Colima. They have a house in Colima. and their mom disappeared. And authorities, through investigation and our own reporting, essentially individuals with a crime group went in there for a home invasion. And normally, for example, so here in the United States, a home invasion normally does not involve an assault or things of that nature. Normally it doesn't. Obviously, there's going to be altercations where it does. Normally you don't see that. But in Mexico, even in a home invasion, and the way it works over there is just because she witnessed the crime, they'll disappear her.
Yeah.
So Maria, she's an older woman, she witnessed the crime. Obviously, it's her home. They then disappeared her, and those individuals tried to get a ransom from Zoe here in the United States. And I think when they disappeared her, they didn't realize that they captured a U.S. citizen. But once again, it's like stories like that too. It's U.S. citizens that also get disappeared. And here in America, Mexican Americans are being called and getting threats too. So
was that crime ever solved?
No,
in
no. Maria's still missing to this day. Zoe, credit to her, still blasting out the story every single day. We're gonna put her story in this piece because I think Americans need to understand, like, it's not just it's just a Mexican that's disappeared in a town that I'm not connected to. It's Mexican Americans, it's U.S. citizens.
Yeah. So the disappearances happen when the young men usually, but also women in Tijuana, when the young people that the cartels kidnap refuse to work for them?
So they disappeared it can happen on both occasions. The disappearance first happens because they're being forced into that criminal underworld now.
Right.
Now, we find out that these individuals are then killed off if they refuse. I think the starkest and deepest example was that ranch in Jalisco where 8 out of the 10 young men recruited to be hitmen were murdered. So 80% were refusing and then literally being killed off. Right. In Baja, we haven't found like that rate of homicide with that connection, but we found that the majority of men were being pushed to be drug runners. Even the women are being pushed to be prostitutes and work in the kind of the sex underworld of Baja California and the whole sex tourism. Because right now, Baja California, it's not just Americans, but it serves as a huge hub for sex tourism for women under 18. It's particularly a lot of, and this is I got this from my own sources through sex workers too, is a lot of men from China and Middle East will come into TJ to have sex with teenagers and stuff. So the cartel has to feed that underworld. Now look, if you go to Hong Kong as an American, you're fine. The cartel needs that running clean because they need that to follow the laws. They can't have that shut down. But the outskirts, that's a different underworld. That's a different customer base. And that's men from the Middle East, men from China who are looking to have sex with Mexican teenage women. And obviously those women are being forced into that world. And if they're not, they're either murdered or first what they'll do is they'll threaten the family members because they do need those individuals on the streets.
And what have you heard? Is that cartel related or is that just small groups of, independent criminals that's their business and maybe they kick up to the cartel, but that's it?
It'll kick up to the cartel. It's not like Jalisco's on the ground. Like it's there. It's normally plaza bosses, the little local gangs.
Right.
But that money eventually, kicks up. The main hub for at least Jalisco and Sinaloa, at least from my reporting in Baja, is obviously the drugs is everything. That's why you need drug runners, you need drone operators.
Constantly.
You need the U.S. citizen Mexican who could drive the car because still 90% of it's going through a legal port of entry. They're still doing the smuggling people through the boats, so we still have Pinga boats crashing Oceanside and Pacific Beach.
I love those TikToks.
I love those videos.
It's like white people will be like on the beach in La Jolla, like doing yoga, doing a downward dog, and then just a couple of fat migrants just speed by them. Those make my day.
So for me, Johnny, that's where I think the Trump administration is making the mistake. Is that they're not focused on like the real network of how a cartel gets built. And this is the other kind of little angle is I've always reported in Mexico and it was always unpopular to want U.S. military on the ground. But the people who are connected to the missing persons crisis, they have like the total opposite view. Like they want to see like full on Marines, G.I. Joe, that. And if Sheinbaum doesn't crack on that, that's going to start to be a problem. I mean, right now she could do her little morning press conference and they could do the whole homicide is going down, but they're finding these clandestine graves even more. I know they found like the one in Jalisco next, like very close to the World Cup stadium. So that's the real story. That's the real crisis. And these are like...
So the crisis is a kidnapping. The crimes are kidnapping. That's where it starts.
And then you have the other angle where law enforcement just says, yeah, we can't do anything. and 90% go unsolved.
Right.
So that's where as an American, it's like that's shocking. Like you just can't fathom that.
Yeah, it's so shocking because, you know, it has to be related somehow to an economic incentive, right? Like whether it's we need soldiers, sicarios from Jalisco to go to war because we're fighting for Zacatecas,
right.
Or yes, we're in TJ, we're a CJNJ cell in TJ and we need mules. We got constantly 24 hours a day that border's jumping with drugs. It's got to be connected to that. They wouldn't just be disappearing and murdering people for no reason.
And also the cartel, it's an advantage if you could have your meal be under 18. Because in Texas, this is a much bigger thing in Texas. I don't know why.
Right.
Not too much in California.
Right.
But when your meal is under 18, Texas DPS and Border Patrol could catch them all day. But they have to immediately turn them over to the Mexican government. Like there's no, they serve a day in jail. There's none of that. You can't. They can't even charge a 15-year-old Mexican national who's smuggling drugs.
Right.
That's why, like, if you like right now in Mexico, there'll be like a 6-year-old driving like 3 Salvadorians, and you know, Border Patrol will catch them.
Right.
And they gotta like literally hand them right over.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that's why
they have an agreement, like a bilateral agreement.
Yeah, so that's why also for the cartel, it's a huge advantage to go after young men, not only for hitmen, which I see, like I said, that's more deeper into Mexico. You see like a 15-year-old be turned into a hitman, but in Baja, he's going to be a mule or he's going to be a drone operator. But they need, and if they get caught by U.S. Border Patrol in California, cool, hand him over and let's run it back. Yeah, 'cause I was in Texas and I remember I was on a ride along and they caught this teenager and the sheriff was like joking. He's like, "Oh, this is like our sixth time running into this guy." And I remember I was with Griff Jenkins, a Fox News correspondent, and the little teenager's like, "Hey, are you Griff Jenkins? I watch you on my Fox." I was like, "No way!" And Griff's like, "I'll probably see you in a couple days, man." He's like, "Yeah, go see you in 4 days." So that's another advantage of having the youngsters do it too. You know, the teenagers.
That is wild. That is wild. So this poor Eric, what was his name? Eric
Carrillo, who started his own foundation, Todos Somos Eric Carrillo. Like because of that, he's found like over like hundreds and hundreds of bodies.
Now, how do these people, these ordinary people, how do they find these graves?
They literally get tipped off. So they're, because of like the organization, other locals and other communities will tip them off here. Hey, this person went missing here. Can you come here? And obviously over the years, Eddie got really, really good at it. So they started to find like kind of the hot spots is what they call it of clandestine graves. And normally when someone is missing, they're sometimes actually like buried in those very, very, very close. Baja California near Rosarito has a lot of like just kind of this open desert area that's been used as like clandestine graves. So they hit all those spots. The area that we were in was kind of like a landfill area, and then they found 4 bodies in 2 months. So the reason we were there was the day before an older gentleman was disappeared. So they said, "Hey, let's start off in this area." And then they were denied the Mexican military escort, which was like a big deal. Wow. And then I was interviewing some other parents who have already been shot at. And they were like, "We're still out here. We're getting threats. We've been shot at." But they're like, "We need the answers first."
They shot the search parties.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was warned even years ago when I found out. They're like, "Hey, if you're going to be in there as an American journalist, just know like these guys are targeted all the time. Like this work is like not appreciated at all."
Why do you think the disappearances have shot up so much? Is that from the pressure to clean up the image of not only the cities and the Mexican state, but is that from the pressure that starts with the U.S.? You know,
on that one, I don't know if there's like a clear like cut answer, but it does seem like Sheinbaum's administration is more like, let's win the homicide war. And on the disappearance, it's almost like they don't care. From the U.S. perspective, what I don't understand is like President Trump has all these security talks and agreements, and we're sending Rubio, but there's never an agreement on this. If the U.S. wants to have the position we don't care about Mexicans, fine, have that position. I can't argue to care about them, but at least have the position saying, okay, we don't care about the Mexicans that disappeared, but every U.S. citizen, we want them back. And if we don't get them back, whether bones, anything, clandestine graves, then I don't know what kind of threat the U.S. could put on Sheinbaum, but I think that's where you have to have that crack. Yeah. Because that's the entire labor force. I mean, you could have all the great fentanyl busts. You could bust them in the marina. You could do all this. You could do the whole thing. We arrest the bad guy and we do the photo op. If they could disappear people all day, what's the point?
So you think that the majority of the labor force of the biggest Mexican cartels is run by slave labor. What else can you call this? This is forced labor. Do you think that's true?
I think the dirty work, foot soldiers, yeah. Now, are they going to ever let these individuals climb up and be higher ranks? Never. I mean, these are essentially foot soldiers for life. And the Jalisco report was the most damning because when they found in a ranch to find that 80% of those men being recruited were being murdered when they refused to be gunmen, and then that ranch was a training center for them to be gunmen. And it happens in the United States too. I mean, they send, particularly with the marijuana, is they sent their own Mexicans up here, and then those Mexicans were kind of like the labor force for the marijuana, while at the end of the day, a higher up is the one who really owns the operation. And then it's messed up because then the authorities raid the grow, and then the guy running it never really suffers at all. And so it's a huge state. But highly encouraged, like I said, if you go to TJ and go to the migrant shelters, you'd be alarmed on the amount of Mexican nationals you find sleeping next to a Haitian, and you're like. And they're like, my whole ranch has been taken over. I can't go back. And then,
they've just been run off their properties.
Run off their property.
It's like what the gangs, the Jewish gangs in the West Bank are doing to the Palestinians. They just gangs of people. I'm like, how can you take this guy's a deed to the property? You just ran him off. Yeah. It's happening in Colombia. We were down filming last year, and we were talking to a young guy, Sicario, for one of the guerrilla groups who are the narcos now. And we're looking at this like big area with like nice big ranches and cool, Spanish style hacienda houses. And he's like, yeah, a lot of these were just taken over by armed sicarios from like the rightful owners. I'm like, they don't go get somebody? They don't go get a cop? You're like, guys. So what can the United States government, an incursion, like the United States military coming into Mexico, I mean, would that force the Mexican government to then like start doing something about this?
See, that's right. See, okay, so like if you would have asked me a few years ago, like, Jorge, you think U.S. military will ever be on the ground in Mexico? I would be like, oh, never in a million years. And then Trump came in 2.0 with Marco Rubio, and then they just got like aggressive. The first move, the telltale sign, was already the executive order by naming like Sinaloa and Jalisco and Los Zetas as foreign terrorist organizations. They already told you, oh, we're bypassing Congress. Oh, and by labeling them as foreign terrorist organizations, we could bomb them, we could strike them because they are literally now an enemy to the United States. I don't know exactly how it will look like to have U.S. capacity on the ground, but I've already been alarmed that Mexico allowed CIA in. They already land ICE into Sinaloa. ICE, actually, for people who don't know, ICE went in there with HSI, Homeland Security Investigations. From the U.S. side, they went in better with Mexican military in Sinaloa, and they busted like 3 massive fentanyl synthetic labs. Really? Like, we've never seen ICE on the ground in Mexico. So it seems like we're getting to that point where we'll see troops on the ground. Now, how the capacity looks, I really don't know. The other issue is, like, on the disappearance people, I genuinely think Trump and Rubio don't give an F.
They can't. Don't give an F. They can't, because the problem is with Mexico. If I'm a citizen of Mexico and I pay taxes and somebody just took my property over, disappeared my kid, and I go to the cops and they say, yeah, there's nothing we can do about it. That's like, how do you kick a mule? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem like militarily it's something we could force on their culture. They have to change that within themselves. It's
just as a tough, I don't even know if I have the right answer. I'm the guy
totally. This is not a solutions-based podcast.
The other thing too is you could tell like Sheinbaum was feeling the heat. Like, I think she, obviously I don't know this. I think when she saw the Maduro operation for the first time, she was like, you know what? They could move in to arrest me. And notice, like, even a lot of politicians out of Baja California, they're looking at their visas now. The whole crackdown on corridos,
right?
Like, if they even sing about the cartel, So it seems like there's something climbing down, and it's gonna be all by Marco Rubio,
But right now, who's up next?
She was next.
Maduro, not Maduro. Petro.
Yeah.
I'm already seeing headlines, and whenever you see the headlines, you're like, oh no, the DEA is looking into him. He's next. This is my prediction. The Colombian president, Gustavo Petro, is next, or Cuba. But especially if we give up and if we leave Iran in shame, which I think is going to happen, Cuba's fucked, bro. Cuba is getting lit up the next day.
I think they're after Cuba next. Because of that South Florida contingency. It's not even Marco Rubio. There's a bunch of other politicians on the Republican side have been wanting this for years.
Yeah. Even James Fishback, who I like. You know, he's anti-Zionist. Yep. He's anti-Palantir, but even he panders to his Cuban base. Yeah. Like, they want full regime change.
Full regime. Also, like if for anyone watching, if you go to that South Florida, you won't find anyone more right wing than a Cuban living in South Florida. More right wing than a white guy living in Alabama. I'm telling you now, a white guy in Alabama, the most redneck guy, could be like, you know what? I don't agree with the war, but I'm still MAGA.
Right.
Cuba, you go over there, nah. Those Cubans are ride or die Trump. Dude, they want to see Cuba bomb to smithereens.
Yeah.
I think they got Cuba on the map, how you said. Lizzie Grab already said the part out loud. Cuba's up next. The other part, bro, is the FBI just opened up their very first drug office in Ecuador. And they just started going after those Ecuadorian gangs.
Yeah.
What does that mean? They're on the border of Colombia. Yeah. So they're right there. So Petra could be up next.
Yeah.
I think Sheinbaum right now, from the Mexican side, is doing everything in her power to turn over as many people as they can. Mm-hmm. The confusing part for Sheinbaum is there's no pathway to success. Like, what does success look like for her? Like, X amount of fentanyl, X amount of cartel members. There's no clear pathway, I think, to the point where Rubio is going to force him to put some type of U.S. military on the ground. So,
well, I've noticed that, and I've been talking about it just on my Instagram. The raw heroin is starting to pick back up.
Cocaine's picking up like massively.
Yeah,
especially out of Matamoros. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Matamoros has always been a king hub for coke, but now it's like,
why is that?
Well, Matamoros.
Is that because the ports right there of Tamaulipas?
Tamaulipas port, and then this is like a side note, but if you guys remember those 4 Americans from like South Carolina that got kidnapped, that happened in Matamoros, they were in there for a coke deal, not to get surgery.
Okay.
So something went wrong there.
Wow.
I was the only American journalist that went to Matamoros and then dispelled that whole story. I went in there thinking like, oh, poor Americans are kidnapped. As soon as I crossed in, every Mexican was like, come on. I was like, oh.
They were down there looking for a connect.
Yeah. So Matamoros has always been a cocaine hub.
Yeah.
Cocaine's making its way back. From my reporting, and I think, John, you might know more than me, at least from what I've seen and heard, is there is fear within the Sinaloa cartel particularly that crackdown on fentanyl and the crackdown with China. So some criminal group, not all, have once again kind of gone to
heroin,
or cocaine,
just
because of that China connection when you need those precursors.
But that's what I mean. They're going back natural.
Yeah,
they're going back on the opioid side.
And according to there's a report from the New York Times. Who knows if it's true? But like I guess Sinaloa cartel has guys like just watching the sky because they're just waiting any moment. And I think for the cartel they know like you're against the most hawkish administration to the point where like even the most I think right wing voters of Trump didn't expect this. Like it's and I think they see it as we only got like another year or two in office. Trump's like, I'm just going to rewrite the whole New World Order before I'm out.
Totally.
So it starts here. I think they're going to hit Mexico. I don't mean hit Mexico as in like bombs and stuff, but there's going to be a military there's a reason why they did foreign terrorist organization right off the bat to bypass Congress, and you put your Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth, who's come on, this guy's super hawkish. Yeah, maybe before the election he has a whole I'm not a neocon, but come on, this guy's
okay. So what does that look like? What does that look like? Sending caravans of troops? Are we talking Marines?
It would have to be like I think special forces, kind of a Green Beret.
But how many numbers, and where do you go first? You know what I mean? This is a bigger. You could talk tough, but as we're seeing with the Strait of Hormuz, things don't always play out the way you think they will in war.
And even the drone situation, like the U.S. There's right now in the news, it's like, oh, we can't even deal with the Iranian drones. We can't even deal with little Jose, 6-year-old, and TJ flying his drone. We can't even. We have 600,000 drone incursions on the U.S.-Mexico border. So I think those are all like massive challenges. I think the biggest point, and I love when Ed brought this up, was like if you're a Mexican national, if you put U.S. troops on the ground, you can now just go to USA and be like, I need asylum. My country's at war. You guys are bombing terrorists in my hometown. So there's always that immigration angle that Republicans don't want another Mexican in here legally.
No, of course not.
So there's so many angles to the story. I'm fascinated. I think just Scheinbaum is feeling the heat. I think she even thought, we're gonna come in, we'll make some agreements, we'll tell Trump some things he likes.
Right.
And I don't think they expected this hawkish. And at the end of the day, like, the secret government is running all these operations. It's the CIA. CIA is the one who basically ran that whole Maduro op to the T.
Right.
And then, CIA was flying drones over Sinaloa. They've been flying drones over the ports of kind of that Sinaloa, Jalisco area.
Yep.
They're the ones who tipped off Mexico on El Mencho's location with the whole girlfriend thing.
Right.
So they're all,
Wow.
they're playing that ink.
They're already there, making moves.
That's what I think, bro.
Yeah.
So do I think, like, right now, yes, right now, this moment, we don't have like a G.I. Joe soldier, American guy on the ground, but we got CIA. I think, and I don't know it's for sure, obviously, but I think there's chaos agents already in Mexico kind of working those groups. And I think there's chaos agents inside the cartels. That's how they would get Mencho's girlfriend, leak that info, and that. And then I do think the CIA probably talked to the military of Mexico, says, this is the location. We want an arrest, and we want him turned over. And I think Mexican military was like, yeah, we'll go in there.
Yeah. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. I don't know we'll make an arrest.
A general got on the phone like, no, dude, he's got so many pictures of me. Pop that guy.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's just my inkling.
That's what Ed says.
I think CIA,
agree.
bro, is fully on the ground, like already in Sinaloa, Jalisco. And I think that's why these cartels, for the first time, are like actual panic mode. Is this going to be the end of them? Absolutely not. Like, they're going to survive this Trump administration. Then the next guy comes in. And whoever the next president is going to be way less hawkish unless you get Secretary Rubio, which he's going to be gunning in 2028 for that spot, of course.
Okay, so, yeah, and I think long term, I think especially as we retreat, as we shut down shop in the Middle East, which I think is going to happen. I think.
You think that? I don't think that.
I think the world's long term. I don't know about this year, but the world's getting split up into regional powers.
Yep.
No more hegemon. I'm talking like 5-10 years out. I think we will become the dominant, obviously the hegemon in the Western Hemisphere. So I think that's when the government will turn, because they got to turn the military industrial war machine on someone, and I think it will be on Mexico and Latin America, but like now with their full attention, because they're not in the Middle East anymore, right? That belongs to Russia and Iran and whatever's left of Israel, which,
I mean, this is not for
really
sure.
is probably not much.
But China's not happy with that Venezuela operation, and obviously what's going on. Like, I think China is getting also ready for some type of military confrontation with the U.S. We're kind of seeing that in Taiwan. They're also buying like a bunch of like made up islands, and they're making them like literally making them into islands.
Yeah,
you have that. The issue for the United States is that we're caught up in this whole Iranian war right now. They can't even stop every Iranian drone. Our DOD can't do it. We just had the report where a wave of drones just flew over a U.S. military base. Couldn't knock them down. Don't even know who they are. They could possibly be connected to China. China already flew those like balloons over the U.S. The key stat that I was like alarmed about was China right now. I think every year could build like 100 new ships, and even their commercial ships in China have to pass military standards, meaning they have to have the decks that could carry tanks and all that. U.S. right now could only with manufacturing, we could only produce 3 ships a year. So 3 versus 100.
Right.
China's already well ahead. They're not getting involved in all these foreign entanglements. If anything, they're getting other countries in debt and building that one beltway to China system. That's why it's important for China right now to get all these Latin American countries to recognize them and then not Taiwan.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. We're falling behind. So I think some astute American leader is going to see that and say, okay, we got to stop trying to dominate the world and just compete with China in our hemisphere.
And then the other issue for the United States that China doesn't have is that China is trying to cozy up to Mexico, and by them doing that, you're essentially setting up a hub in Mexico. The thing that I've reported on constantly was like, this is a big thing in China, is that they have a huge system where they have to get their women pregnant and have to have them have that baby in the United States. So that baby is a U.S. citizen, and all of a sudden that baby could travel back to communist China, and all of a sudden you have this weird kind of system.
Yeah.
Another thing with China is they're buying up all this U.S. farmland. A lot of China setting up next to U.S. military bases. I've covered the legal marijuana stuff to the T. So the China thing is that's why when I've done reporting, I've always hit that angle. I think some of the Middle East stuff is always kind of fear mongering and more to get American supports a bomb.
For sure.
So we could bring
For sure.
OnlyFans to some women in Tehran.
It's crazy. It's like, what are we in 2003
But
again?
the China one is the
believe it.
real element. I mean, there's already fentanyl precursor agreement with the cartels.
Right.
China also does a lot of smuggling through the Canadian ports, so they're getting the fentanyl precursors through there. Mexican cartels need the Chinese to launder money through
laundering
Chinese
money
banks.
is the
There's
big one.
so much connection
Well,
there.
listen to this. We just had a guy on that he told me when he's getting ready to make his re-up, he's got connects in Colombia. He's got to get like $1 million or $2 million down there. He goes through his Chinese guys, and guess where they were? Mexicali. So the Chinese guys, basically, you get them in the U.S. and they have family in Mexico.
Oh.
You give them the drug money in the U.S. They then call their family in Mexico and say, okay, because they have tons of money sitting on the sidelines for these things. And they say, okay, yeah, wire it down to Colombia. And it's easy.
Oh my
they don't
God.
monitor the wire transfers from Mexico to Colombia. So that's how the money is moved. Also cryptocurrency, but that's really, it's an old Persian way of laundering money. The Chinese really have cemented themselves in the Western Hemisphere and in Mexico and in the criminal underworld. But what I want to talk about with you, because we talked about well, obviously the disappearances in Mexico, the border wall. I want to finish on your reporting in Minnesota, and basically the end of end of the Trump attempt at mass deportation. Take it away.
This is excellent right here. So the Trump administration finishes Midway Blitz in Chicago, and then they go to New Orleans, where like in New Orleans, they didn't have an issue. Did their operations. Then they get to Minneapolis, and they were up against the top boss, the final boss of white liberals, and the activists and the organization.
Tim Waltz?
That? But basically, like the literal like population of Minneapolis, Border Patrol was not ready for how organized those activists were. They thought, this is Chicago, this is New Orleans. They went into Minneapolis and faced a city that did not want them there.
Right. And this is a city that had seen the George Floyd riot protests. I mean, they're just...
It's different.
It's different there, man.
So I've reported on the riots in Minneapolis, that was years ago. And so I come into Minneapolis I believe the protests already been there for a little bit over a week. And the energy was already different. Meaning, like, I got there, and every business had signs like "ICE out," "No ICE agents." A lot of businesses were closed, but it felt like for the entire city was like mobilizing. And I remember I was driving around some of the neighborhoods where there were the Somali neighborhoods, and you just had a bunch of activists around those neighborhoods, like looking for SUVs, looking for out-of-state plates. And as soon as they would locate like an ICE agent or a Fed, blast that vehicle on social media, register those plates. Like, they did a really good job of like stopping operations. Like I've never seen anything like that. Even the agents that I interviewed. So I'm on the ground. I'm feeling that sentiment. Minneapolis is in the national spotlight. It's in the news every day. And the energy was there. And I remember just feeling like, I always thought Portland was the most organized city when it came to like
Minneapolis like took us off the map for that shit. Thank God.
And one thing what we were noticing, and this is what where the confrontation started, was they have a building in Minneapolis, which is their federal building. It's called the Whipple Building. So the Whipple Building is where Bovino and all the agents start off their morning. They'll probably they'll game plan, and then they all exit, and they'll kind of start doing their operations throughout Minneapolis. This is the roving patrol that I'm talking about. So this is actual Border Patrol agents in those green uniforms. I think when people see people, they always say, "Oh, it's ICE." These are Border Patrol guys. So that's another angle to the story, because these are guys who will work California border. They've never been in an urban environment, especially like Minneapolis, -30. We're talking about the weather plays another factor too.
Right.
So what was going on, and when we started seeing happen is they would go out for a roving patrol. Sometimes they had a targeted arrest, and when they would move in to make that arrest or whatever, the agents call it blowing up the spot. So these activists did a really good job of tracking the agents, like literally following them, tracking them. They had their own database where I guess they were registering the license plates.
They're like cartel scouts.
Dude, I think even better. I mean, they were efficient. And I mean, these are like your soccer moms, like kind of like your average Joe, your average person in Minneapolis.
Well, what was wild to me too, I saw a video of a guy, just a big, disgusting white guy from Minnesota with a fat beard, just looked like a fucking Trump supporter. And he had an AR and he was like, I'm here to protect my community. And I get chills because I'm like, that is what the Second Amendment is here for. Like he has
that right. Yep.
This is a white guy defending immigrants. This is a white guy defending non-Americans, using the liberty of America to defend non-Americans. It was kind of touching. But anyways,
so as you
were saying,
but we did see a lot of that. But when these activists basically interfered in the operations, that's where you saw the clashes. So that's where we started seeing the clashes with agents. And then by the time I arrived, the Nicole Good shooting had already happened. That's where the protests have started.
Right.
So we started seeing more of these clashes. I started seeing the interfering of the operations. The other thing is they started to hunt down all the hotels where the agents were staying. So every night they would find out where the agents were at and they would target that hotel. They would cause a bunch of ruckus outside, but some of them, they would actually attack them. So I was covering a lot of that. They were attacking the lobbies and things of that nature. I'm the one, I don't know if people saw it, but there was a viral moment where one of the hotels were being attacked to the point they had to call a backup federal unit. So these federal officers came. And
when you say attacked, what do you mean?
Like basically just breaking the windows in the lobby, kind of vandalism towards the property.
Just mobs of people.
But not actually attacking the actual agents. But kind of causing destruction, vandalism. But I remember they called these a federal backup, these agents. They came in and one of the agents took some type of object to the head. So he was discombobulated. There was this viral moment where he's kind of guarding, it was like a Marriott, and all the windows are destroyed. And he's surrounded by activists. There's people like me, press. And then he had this moment where he was like, I have a message for the media. He's like, where's Minneapolis Police Department? How come no one has our back out here? And as soon as he said that, you could tell he regretted it saying it because we caught him on camera. But it was kind of like the microcosm of the story where you had these agents feeling like they were going against the city. And they were just disrupting, like I said, hotels, everywhere. So I think the morale of the agents were getting hit.
And the targets, you said there were some targeted arrests. Who were they?
So, I mean, according to them, when they would do the press conferences, it'd be individuals with serious crimes. It could be sex crimes, violent crimes. And those were targeted arrests. And in those operations, the activists interfered. Those sometimes when they made that target arrest, if they run into other individuals who are undocumented, they would make that's what's called collateral arrest. So that's another way to boost up the number. So we were seeing a lot of that. We were documenting that, and then it was a Saturday. I think it was my day 7 there. So I was there for a week, and it was a Saturday, and that was a day I'm supposed to fly out. So I did all my reporting, just kind of covering all the clashes and everything. It wasn't slowing down anytime soon. So I was getting ready to catch my flight, and then boom, I get a notification on X, and it goes, Border Patrol agents fire shots at a male on the Collier and 26th Avenue, South Minneapolis. So as soon as I got that, I canceled the flight because I already knew tonight's going to go down. So I catch that Uber, go down, and as soon as I get down, there was already a huge police line and a huge crowd of protesters already kind of fighting. And as soon as I got to the ground, or when I got there, I didn't know this yet, but it was Alex Preddy who got shot and obviously ends up dying. And then I get there and a huge armored vehicle goes into the crowd, and it was the whole day was chaotic. So it was riots in the snow, tear gas, clashes between the police, state police deployed. And it was just, that started off another wave of violence between the crowds. And then all of a sudden, the story started to shift where ICE and Border Patrol from all angles were getting just that negative news headline. And for me, as a reporter, I like to study the optics. So I remember saying, all of this, this is bad for Trump, for the deportation operation. Then it doesn't help that you got Kristi Noem calling Alex Preddy domestic terrorist, and she had to walk it back. And then Trump was when he heard those comments from Noem, he was oh, I don't agree with that at all. So then the administration wasn't agreeing, their messaging wasn't right, and then boom, every day, too, I was attending every press conference of Bovino. And Bovino's messaging is aggressive, man. He comes off the bat, very against the media. And I remember on the final press conference, I didn't know it. It would be Bovino's final press conference. He came out with this, try to do a thing where everyone has a choice. And when a protester interferes in operation, he makes a choice. And that was his kind of his lingo. And then later that day, boom, the news comes down that Bovino's out. Tom Homan comes in. The next day, Tom Homan does his press conference, and the optics have already changed. Bovino comes in, like with that like military guard, trying to look very like, I don't know the image that Bovino wanted to portray. But Tom Homan did his press conference in a suit and was very emotional and was more like, was touched about the deaths of Nicole Good and Preddy and wanted to. I remember he was already saying there, we're going to scale down. And then I think it was like a couple weeks later, they scaled down that whole operation. And that right there was the ending of Trump's mass deportation agenda. Not saying that there's not ICE operations that being done.
But you won't see something like that again.
You won't see that again. You won't see Operation Midway Blitz, any of that. You won't see Border Patrol doing the roving patrol. That's done. You're going to see less and less of like businesses being targeted, Tamale Lady being targeted. It's back to the worst of the worst. The thing is, like from my perspective as a journalist, like I don't care about all this stuff. I'm just here to tell the story. The damage has been done. Like I think their voters, they're gonna get hit because they went after too many people that had no criminal records. There's so many stories of that. Then they started going after like people who are like from England who are like on a legal green card and like literally doing everything right.
Like I know I have bad teeth, but I'm not Somali.
Yeah. So then they started arresting like green card folks, and like it just kind of got crazy. I always thought the optics of having Border Patrol like in urban cities was like just not good.
No.
And so we saw the ending of that. You saw Kristi Noem's basically whole thing end after that. Stephen Miller has almost been like sidelined. You don't even hear from Stephen Miller anymore. And I doubt, I don't know this for sure, I doubt that DHS is being pressured to make 3,000 arrests. If anything, like I think Politico came out with a report where it was like Trump administration wants to stop talking about deportation operations. So it's starting to hit him on the polls. I think the damage is done.
Now, we heard during the pandemic over the George Floyd riots that happened all over the country, we heard a lot about agitators and potential FBI whipping up the mob and, piles of bricks laid out for protesters and rioters to smash windows. Did you hear of anything like that? Like, do you think this was real, or do you think everything that happened in Minneapolis was like paid actors almost?
For me, it was 100% real. Because I always thought Portland was the most organized kind of protest activist city. But when I saw Minneapolis, it took it to a different level. Not only that, but like I did numerous of interviews because I've always wanted to know, like, how do these people, what's the mindset here, right? They, from their mindset, ICE is Nazis. And these Nazis came into my community and they're kidnapping, not arresting, not apprehending, kidnapping my Somali brother and sister. So we could either shut up and let the Nazis take over the city, or we could step up and bring the fight. And they view it like that. Okay. In Portland, it's just your fringe left that view it like that. Right. And then you drive around the city. Yeah, maybe you go to one or two coffee shops. You'll see a sign, I want ICE dead. Right. But the majority, it's just like regular folks. Yeah. Minneapolis, everybody, bro. Everybody was like, no, we're ride or die. These guys are Nazis. We're gonna do whatever it takes. And they were one of the most organized protesters, active. I think there was a group called like Minnesota 501 where they had all these chats where like every single ICE agent who had their license plate was registered on there. They were getting the ID. I mean, it was to the T. So I those people did feel like they were standing up for their brother and sister. And at the end of the day, like no matter how you paint it, whether you're right or left, you're a Trump supporter or not, the protesters won.
Yeah, they did.
ICE got kicked out. All those operations stopped. Bovino's literally been forced to retire. Kristi Noem lost her job. Yeah, like they got the W that they wanted and they fought for. I didn't get a sense, and I've been everywhere where you kind of sense some stuff is not organic. Yeah, that they felt like they were at war.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's remarkable.
And you could go into any businesses in Minneapolis and everyone was in the fight. You go to a little shop, hey, we're making flyers. And you go to another shop, hey, whistles. You go to another, like, it was us against them.
Like counter protesters or anything like that?
I mean, you might have like one right-wing dude who drove from like out of town and comes down and then it's like, but it was as legit as it could.
So it sounds like it really crossed the political spectrum. It was really more like community. It was apolitical. It's us versus them. Whether you're a Trump voter or you're a blue-haired Democrat weirdo, It's like these are invaders and we have to push them out.
That's the vibe they got. And like I said, before that, Border Patrol, like the city that they just came off was New Orleans. And they didn't have an issue in New Orleans. No one protested them in New Orleans.
No.
They got to Minneapolis and they just did not give up.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, we were out there -30 and people showed up. You can't pay.
No.
And I remember, like, I always got asked too, like, hey, these people have to be paid. I'm like, dude, there was a day there was like a Friday, they all shut down their businesses and like 30,000 went out and hit the streets.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, they won so much, they defeated Trump's or the Republicans' next term probably, because not only, well, I don't think the mass deportations were ever going to happen, really, because all of the businesses, the slaughterhouses, the hotels, the agricultural centers. Yeah, they're all paying Trump. Like, dog, you're taking my land, you're taking my workers. Cut this shit out. It was never going to happen, but it really, the Minneapolis really, like, not only did it turn off moderates, like moderate, I'm not a Republican, but like a moderately like right-wing person, or at least on the immigration issue where I'm like, yeah, you got to have some border enforcement, guys. But when I saw them like kidnapping really and murdering U.S. citizens, I'm like, okay, well, you've lost me forever. Not only did you lose people like me, you lost the super Groyper, Nick Fuentes types, because they're like, we wanted 3 million people put on a train and sent back to Mexico, like, and that's clearly, so you lost them too.
This is why, bro, I think right now Trump, they can't win with this one now because the damage is already done. So you lost, like you said, you lost normie voters, people who even might have even supported it. You lost them, but then you also are losing your base because your base is like, you're not even doing enough.
Right.
You're not like, so right now this one was a massive, massive, massive L.
I think that's why you could see some uptick on crossings at the border, because people are like, okay, they've scaled back, like they're not going to do this. So now's my time I want to come in and work. I want to come in for whatever reason. And I think you could see that could be a correlation.
I could see that. The other part too, pay attention to the White House social media now. Notice how they don't post no memes about deporting people, no funny music of them being shackled up on the airplane.
I don't see any of the YouTube commercials.
Yeah, all that stuff.
We've got a plane ticket for you.
Yeah, all that they are quiet. And I think that tells you everything. Stephen Miller, to me too, like they used to have this dude out all the time talking to media and stuff. He's kind of been sidelined.
Right.
I just, like, just from a journalist perspective, it's fascinating to see how Trump 2.0 got here.
Yeah.
They did it, they're losing on the deportation front.
Yeah.
They're in a war. The economy sucks. It's just like, I don't know where they go from here. And Trump right now has left, he's doing his boy J.D. Vance so dirty because he was supposed to leave J.D. in such a good standing that J.D.'s like, oh, I'm going to beat Newsom all day. And now he's leaving J.D. with that shaky
He's pulling higher a little bit right now. I think once this is how I think things are going to work, just from me covering this stuff from all these years. Your average American, like you and me, bro, we're obsessed with the news. We're news junkies. We're like, every missile flying to Iran and the one out, we know about it. But your average American obviously doesn't. But what your average American does care about, how much is gas. And I've been hanging around, like what I try to do, bro, is I try to look, not politics through my lens. I'm a media obsessed guy, I'm news junkie. No one looks at it like me. I try to look through politics, bro, through the lens of my dad. A guy in his 60s, immigrant from El Salvador, middle class, U.S. citizen, who's a trucker. Like stuff that he cares about is probably what the average American cares about, right? Kitchen issue tables. My dad doesn't know all the updates on Iran. Probably doesn't know how many American service members got killed. Right.
Probably doesn't even know how much Israel's role plays in it. But what he is telling me though, hey, that diesel on that 18-wheeler, it's killing me, man. And it's gonna get worse. And then now you go to a grocery store, the single mom. Hey, I went to go fill up gas like the other day. Do you really believe it's going up? The news says it's gonna hit 7. You think it's gonna hit that? When the Americans when that starts to happen, then they were like, wait a minute, we're at war for how long? He said we were never gonna be in forever wars. And that's when the polling
50 days.
Yeah.
Don't worry. 50
also,
days.
you notice the cute
Not 48 days. 50,
you notice
nice and clean.
Notice the cute little poll that CNN does. CNN does how much support has Republicans lost on Trump for the war? 100% supported. 0 are against it. It's like, bro, Kim Jong-un just did an election in North Korea. At least he does the 99.5 and leaves like a little wiggle.
No,
CNN, you couldn't leave a wiggle?
We truly have third world dictator propaganda now. And guess who just bought CNN? Wow, shocker, the Ellisons.
Did you see the cringe thing? They're trying to make a podcast style, bro. They're trying to do the mics in the studio. They're trying to put like Jake in his like little bedroom. I'm like, dude.
Insane,
It's
guys.
insane.
It's over.
It's over.
Don't be hip. Don't be
But right
edgy.
now, turn on CNN or Fox. Just remove the logo. You couldn't even tell.
Indistinguishable.
You couldn't tell.
So this is where we've come to. And we've known for decades that this is where it's coming to. The monopolies they keep consolidating every year, every generation, until now it's like it's one oligopoly. You know what I mean? It's just one entity and it's serving the state. It's serving state power. It's all it's there for.
And now corporate media is trying to do the whole thing of like, trying to attack the podcasters now because the podcaster is against the war. Corporate media is obviously for war. So now they're trying to do the whole thing where it's like, the podcasters are out of touch. Every American is supported this war. 90% support. So they feel that threat. But right now it's all pro war. CNN, News Nation, Fox News, all pro. And some of the independent media, because they bought out from some of these bigger guys, now they're pro war too. Free press. All they do is defend it.
Right.
They never talk about like the lives lost, human impact, and all that stuff. People don't even know that like we were bombing Tehran to the point where like their skies were black, filled with oil.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I said, once the gas starts becoming an issue, that's where you'll see the polling hit.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know how Republicans are going to climb out of this one.
Okay, so all right. Let's give me just say Trump survives the next 3 years. He doesn't die of natural causes or whatever. It gets impeached and it works by when the Democrats flip the House this year in the midterms. Just say 3 years, right? What happens in Iran and how does that affect Mexico, the cartels there, and the U.S. War games in Mexico, Cuba, and Latin America at large?
Fascinating. So I think that in 3 years we're still going to be in Iran, and I think I might be one of the. I think a lot of people think we have an off ramp. I don't see it right now. Yeah. We're about to deploy like I think around 2,000 Marines from the San Diego Camp Pendleton base. So I think we're still going to be Iran in another foreign entanglement. I think China's going to benefit. To what that benefit looks like, I don't know. I'm not like an international analyst. Couldn't tell you that. I think they're going to go after Cuba because the voters, Trump does have a base that wants that, and he wants to serve them. And I think with Marco Rubio there, it's just a matter of time. They're gonna go after Cuba now. Does it look like same thing as the Maduro operation? We'll have to wait and see. I think Cuba's gonna have to give up way easier than that. They're just gonna have no chance. I don't know if they use that new weapon, the Havana syndrome thing, on those on Cuba. But I think they're gonna go after Cuba. I think Sheinbaum.
And when you say after Cuba, what do you mean? Do you talk about toppling the regime? Or are we talking about like Maduro style, just grab the dictator, or are we talking about like sending troops?
I think
toppling the communist government.
I think they're
Cuba.
going to topple the regime, but I think what they'll do is they're going to try to get an agreement with them, and if they don't, they'll just move in literally U.S. military. It could look like Maduro, just in and out, take the guy out, and then that.
But that won't topple the government, though. They need to go in and.
I mean, they'll probably install somebody. They'll probably install like some Cuban, like they'll probably have a guy that they want to install. Like for instance, like the Venezuela operation. People don't know this. Like U.S. first primary goal was to install Juan Guaido as the guy. That's why, like, when Juan Guaido would come to the U.S., Nancy Pelosi and the Republicans would call him president of Venezuela. Then obviously they had to give that up. That never came to fruition. But so I think they'll do some type of installment there. But I think Cuba's done. Like they're gonna. That's like on the radar next. They'll topple it, and it'll be a huge win for the South Florida Republicans. Marco Rubio's that's his like wet dream. He's gonna have that. On Mexico, I think that Sheinbaum won't get arrested. I think that would just break norms, and Mexico's too much of a friend. Like they're our neighbors. Yeah. We won't arrest Sheinbaum, but she's going to be pressured to a point where she's going to have to allow U.S. military on the ground. Now, I'm not a military expert. I don't know if that looks like you send in the Marines on the port. Do you send special forces, a unit of special forces in Sinaloa, one in Jalisco? I don't know what that looks like, but I think Sheinbaum is going to get to the point where Rubio and them are going to be like, you could do this our way. Or it's literally going to be like we'll literally just we'll bomb boats. We don't care.
Right.
So I think she's going to be pressured to a point where they'll have U.S. military on the ground. I don't think the cartel situation is going to be over because of it, but it's going to be interesting where the news cycle goes there.
Yeah.
The big thing I think just if we're talking about international is to see how kind of China counterpoints to all this because they need that Mexico relationship and they're not going to want. They'll let Venezuela get away, but they're not going to want U.S. military troops on the ground. Like China's, there's no way. So there's so many interesting elements. We're like people forget we're still in this like Ukraine thing. I think Russia and wins.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating. It's just my big thing is 2028 because it's either going to be J.D. Vance or Rubio from the right, and it's going to have to go against Newsom. And normally in politics, we always have that pendulum swing, and these guys are making it way easy for Newsom, even with a guy with a horrible record, could come in and win. And I think if Newsom wins, he's going to have a very pro-Israel foreign policy. That'd be a whole nother thing. But I think right now, I don't see how we're not in Iran in 3 years. Like I said, I see troops on the ground in Mexico. We might even see troops by the World Cup. There might be an agreement where you might have to have.
That's in 3 months.
That's in 3 months where you might have to have some type of U.S. military presence on there for the World Cup to protect the. There might be something there.
Wow.
But I think it's coming down. And if we don't see U.S. troops, doesn't matter. CIA's all over Mexico right now.
Yeah.
And I think Sheinbaum, come on, they have their intelligence too. They know CIA's on the ground. I believe Sheinbaum's like. Yeah, I think she feels it. I think the Maduro operation changed the way that they're like.
It woke a lot of people up.
Yeah.
They're like, damn.
Yeah.
I'm not safe.
Exactly. Yeah. So
shit.
The thing is for Trump though, for Trump world and MAGA world is like you need to leave if you want this agenda to fall through, this new world order of MAGA, you got to leave JD in good standing. And if you don't, then if we have a Dem come in. They're probably not going to be. They're going to be nowhere near as aggressive to Mexico on this. Not even saying that's the right approach. It's just kind of the fact situation. But I think the crackdown's happened on Mexico's already because they're already pulling visas on politicians. Like it's coming, man. Like I'm telling you, bro. If you would have asked me a few years ago, I'm like, there's no way.
And that's why these people are disappearing. It's because they're told by their higher ups, we got to turn the heat down in the major urban centers. So it's like season 4 of The Wire.
Yeah.
Remember when Marlo and his crew, they're trying to keep things quiet. They're burying bodies in the vacant houses.
And I think Sheinbaum, there must have been some type of order to law enforcement all over Mexico. Keep that homicide rate down or don't record.
Yeah.
And on the disappearance doesn't matter because the Trump administration they don't. That's not even an angle they care.
Semantics.
They care about. So my angle, bro, and it's going to be this going forward probably the next year is I'm going to go all over Mexico. We're going to keep doing these stories.
Yeah.
And those Mexicans, when you're interviewing those parents, they'll tell you directly, like, this is the whole cartel force. This is how they're alive. Is through this brutal system. And then the female situation is a whole nother thing, man. Being forced into the sex trade, especially in Baja California, when you got men from China, Middle East, Saudi, like these countries, and like in their countries, they're like, they could have sex with a teenager, and it's like they're not frowned upon.
I mean, a lot of us to look. We like to believe that the cartels are recruiting people because they need money,
and sometimes people try to make them look cool, and I get it, the aesthetic, but.
Well, I'm not calling them cool. I'm just marveling at the fact that they can't recruit enough people by the money. Yeah. They can't. It has to be forceful. They have to force labor.
The money's more, bro, all bribe. You turn over politicians all day. You turn over businesses, all that stuff. But when it comes to like the actual young individuals, it's a brutal thing how they do it. It's a lot of so many college students, kids who are in school, universities are always targeted. I know right now, I was reading a report, we're on the way to you, Cancun, past 7 days, like 7 young women went missing in Cancun, all Mexican national women. So they're probably gonna be forced into the sex trade. Right. Obviously in Cancun, because you have a lot of tourists there that you have to serve that underworld. And when I talk to my friend, this might sound like a joke, but it's just that the reality is when I talk to my friends here in the U.S., and they're like, hey, can I party in Tijuana? Can I do the thing with the ladies and stuff? I said, the safest spot, and it sounds insane, is Hong Kong.
For sure.
Because the women have to be over 18.
Yeah.
The cartel needs that one location running to a T. Meaning, like, if you sleep with a prostitute from Hong Kong, you could drink all day and you could pass out in your room. You could have like $1,000 in cash. You'll wake up, $1,000 will be there because she knows she touches $1, her head's gonna be cut off.
Well, they're so on the map. They're
so on the map
out there.
Yeah. So
and by the way, those guys are definitely connected to organized crime.
Yeah.
One of the owners got murdered recently. They're paying the piper.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and when you go in those areas, there's security all over. Like there's TJ police all over. When you get to the outskirts and then you're dealing with those women, that's a different level because those are women directly under some type of plaza boss, and they were probably likely forced into that work. And the thing too, like, and you know this, John, from just even traveling in Mexico, and is even in being around those areas, you just walk around, every light pole is covered to missing, all the way to the top,
Yeah, there's a monument that we went to in Guadalajara. It's right in the city center. And it's just like thousands of these missing persons posters, and it's everybody. It's old people. It's young women. It's middle-aged men. It's nice-looking people. It's pretty. It's descended to something that Mexico's never seen before. It's devolving into something you would see. I mean, I don't know of another example on Earth outside of like ethnic cleansing and war where this is happening. Can you think of one?
No,
I can't think of a country like that.
I was just watching like a documentary on the Ukrainian war where like there were a bunch of this little local town had to bury a bunch of their own Ukrainians, and they just had a big old hole and were like dumping the bodies. That country's at war. This is like Mexico on a regular day. There was a story from the AP News that the locals in Jalisco were pissed off because I guess there was an area where they had a bunch of these walls obviously covered with missing persons posters, and that the authorities were taking them down, getting ready for the World Cup, getting ready for the whole world to come in.
That's why they were, when the arrest of Mencho, they did not want that. That was a complete CIA working with the generals move because they didn't want that bad press before the World Cup.
No,
they didn't want the Civil War kicking off the way it did.
So supposedly that the United States was going to send ICE to Italy for the Winter Olympics. I could totally see a situation where they'll do like, okay, well, we need ICE or we need some type of U.S. military in Jalisco or wherever those World Cup games are going to be. But yeah, they started to find it's gruesome, but they started to find like hundreds of bodies near these World Cup stadiums in Jalisco. This mother search group discovered it all by themselves, which I'm always astonished by these stories of these people. Like to me, that's what I also want to highlight is these characters. These are the strongest people in the world. Yeah. There's no glitz and glamour. No one's giving them a hand. And
are they funded? Do they have any funding from anybody?
No.
Like, wow.
No. And this guy, the Eddie Carrillo guy, is like. Even when I was there, the parents go up to him. They're like, "Just thank you, man." They're like, "Without you, we wouldn't even have a chance." All those people are asking us for a chance, even if it's 1%. They'll take 1%. Being shot at and then still going out there, like there's something beautiful in that. And I think as a storyteller, that's obviously we're trying to tell everything and try to hold the powerful accountable and hit all these angles. But that's one thing of like the human element that I would like the audience to take away is that like that to me is real. Like I said, when I was in Kerrville and I'm watching this guy look for his nephew all by himself with a shovel, it just hits you different as a human. You understand like that. Yeah, that's a different strength, a different love that I didn't know about. And when I was with those parents, bro, it was a Saturday, and I'm over here thinking like, man, just on the other side, people are just like watching the game, football,
going to SeaWorld,
hitting Pacific Beach. Yeah. So for me, I'm like, and when I started learning more and from the parents, I'm like, this can't be a one-off. Like, we're going to have to come back again and again. And it's not going to just be Baja California. We're going to go to Jalisco. We'll go to these other areas and join all these search groups and tell these important people literally not giving. There was a one man, bro, that was literally shot at. His interview was talking about him being shot at. His shirt was a picture of his son. We were shooting on March 13th. His son missing March 13th, 2022. Literally on the 3-year anniversary, I'm with this guy. And just like no fear. Wow. So that's what we want to highlight.
And this has not been on the media basically at all.
No.
Not the mainstream media, not even really the podcast media. I mean, there was that one week last year where we heard about this mass grave in Jalisco, and
I was like, yeah.
and that was it.
And like I said, like the start of this year, January, like the first few days, boom, Baja California was like, hey, we just found 32 bodies at 15 different sites.
Yeah.
And then when they started finding out that some of the local law enforcement connected to those disappearances. I had a situation, I mean, it wasn't anything like insane, but you could kind of like, it kind of made me think, like there was a situation where I was on the Tijuana streets. It was like me drinking in a bar. Literally, I was out with like just a beer, and then boom, police pulls up, sees me with the beer, and was like, you can't drink in public. And I'm like, oh, okay, my bad. Went to throw it away. By the time I went to throw it away, they handcuffed me, and they put me in the back seat. And then they drove me around, and they were like, who are you? I'm an American. And then right off the bat, I knew, if I don't use this journalism card, I could be effed here. Wow. So I was like, look, man, I'm a reporter. I'm letting you know off the bat, like, American journalist. So if something goes down, like I got my location on, and they drove me around, and then they did is they drove me to an alley that was like, literally no lights. Where I thought like, okay, this is where something would happen. And all they did was they drove me to an alley with no lights, and then all they did was basically they robbed me all of my American cash. Was like, I think I had like a G on me. Took that and then like uncuffed me and was like, all right, you can go back to US whenever. And then right there, I was like, you know what? Like, this is how little things like that happen with law enforcement. Where like,
now, can't you imagine them finding a young girl walking around the streets of East Tijuana with no stoplights and rabid dogs and no government anywhere, picking her up and handing her over? Like,
we're used to the U.S., bro. Like, if let's say that situation happened in the U.S., right? The cop comes out, hey, you can't do that. All right, fine. But I'll write you a citation. There's a process. He went from like, you can't do that. I'm like, okay, cool. I went to throw it away. And he's like, but we're taking it right now.
It's kidnapping.
It's a kidnapping. Drove me around TJ.
And a robbery.
Did a little interview with me. And I knew off the bat, because from my experience with some stuff, I'm like, I got to use I'm an American journalist, because these guys are going to freak the F out.
Right.
They're going to know, okay, we cannot touch this guy. They'll leave the cat. They'll take my cash. It's fine.
The cops have to be in on this.
But that right there, bro, that moment was a big telling. I'm like, okay, this happens way more common in Baja and Tijuana than I thought. They're doing this to Mexican nationals all day. Oh yeah, they're running this.
You got to be careful, man, because that's a big. I mean, that is the most serious business. Cops. I mean, they just arrested 30 Tijuana cops. Mm-hmm. I think they were federales or state cops. I don't know if there's a difference.
I'm always doing ride-alongs with them, and I was like, I don't even know if this guy's like legit.
You can't trust anything. You can't trust anyone. And as I told you about our experience down there,
that's a great one.
It's all smoke and mirrors. It's like theater, you know.
And everyone's an actor. Everyone's an actor.
You could send out 15, baklava AR-15 toting state cops could go do a crazy raid on some criminals and arrest them. And turns out they're all working for the other side, right? It's the craziest country on earth.
But I think that's why you and I, bro, are like addicted to get stories out of there, because it's like this.
I think you a little more than me.
Yeah. it's this place that like is insane, and it's like right next to our country.
Yeah.
And it's
I was talking about this with Ed. Like, this is the golden era, the golden age for reporting on Mexico, because I do think 50 years from now, everything's going to be so different. Hopefully we're going to be on a Bitcoin standard. It's all of the North America. I don't think we're going to have nation states. I don't think it's going to be Canada, the United States, and Mexico. I think it's going to be smaller territories. And I don't know. I think it's going to be better. I think it's going to be a lot more. I think the future is a lot more positive after we get over this like transition we're making to AI and shit. And we got to get the boomers out of the way. They all, And I don't mean like we need to like send them to an old folks home. They all need to die. They need to cease. They need to turn into vapor and go into the heavens, because they're the trolley car holding the rest. They're the caboose holding the rest of the train back. Try to move on. So, but
at least they get their Social Security, bro. You and I, we ain't getting nothing.
No.
We ain't getting.
No,
we're done.
So, I mean, this is such. There's so much I want to know from this story. I want to know, me. I'm obsessed with why. Okay, who's doing it? Why are they targeting these kids? Yeah, are these slave laborers? Are they also actually paid? Like, did Eddie Carrillo Eric Carrillo, when he was kidnapped, did they then say, okay, but you're working now?
I haven't found it.
Of course not. I'm just saying, like, yeah,
Right,
there's
it's
so
so
many
much.
unanswered questions. And
Well, this is what I want. Is this next year, bro? Is we're gonna tackle on this story. We're gonna do like a series, but I want you to hit the ground with me.
yeah.
And we won't
down.
like hit it from all angles. Like we should do a day where we're embedded with the authorities on this stuff. Maybe one day you and I could maybe talk to the actual Baja California State Attorney's Office. Like, why is forensics so
Yeah.
poor? Why do you guys give up?
Right.
And then also just be like completely embedded with the families.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
just doing something like that.
Yeah.
And then and also just speaking to your regular Mexican national, getting like a pulse on the ground.
Yeah.
About all this, I think it's like super important. But I think there's something there. Even when I left that, like my day reporting with those parent search groups, they were all like looking at me like, hey, you're like our last hope of getting a message out. Like no one cares anymore. In Mexican media, it's like normal now. It's like it's not even a story.
They're completely desensitized.
Completely. So they are looking for coverage. They're looking for pressure, literally anything. And so even just you going down there, man, would be like a huge, huge deal to those people. Like they literally don't have no one. Like what I mean, they can't find anyone to care or sympathize for the cause. They can't even get like a Mexican journalist to like join them for a day because it's like And so I just like someone like me, man. I report on. Obviously, I do all the crime stuff. That's what people know me for. Mm-hmm. But I've done so much human stuff. I did the Uvalde shoot. I was the first reporter when all those kids were killed.
Yeah.
Kerrville, same thing. All those
that's
kids
all crime too.
Yeah, that was crime too. But like those human stories, I think are powerful, especially like in those people in Mexico. So, if you could hit the ground with me, man, we should hit it all and
100.
We'll tell some powerful stuff.
But let's plug your new YouTube channel, man, because you're independent now.
Yeah,
so
fully independent.
We want to get a lot of people over to check out what you're doing because it's great.
So the YouTube channel right now is literally just my last name, the word Ventura, then reports.
Nice.
All in one. I'll give you guys a link too. I'm sure you guys will
be
link
in the
it.
description.
We'll have that. We'll have like exclusive reporting, documentaries. It's gonna be shot very different. So every video you see, we're shooting it different. So first one we did was more about like hard news, kind of the connection with the cartel, sleeper cell, special interest alien. This one is going to be shot more like a documentary movie where we really follow the people and tell those stories. Yeah. But we're hitting everything, and then we're hitting stuff from alternative news angle. That's my big thing is I'm always going to find your alternative angle to a news story. Corporate media does already a bad job of covering everything else, so we're there for more of the alternative angle, and we do all types of stuff, bro. Protests, riots, documentaries, investigations. We're gonna do so much more in Mexico, and then stay tuned, man. If the war keeps going, we might have to pop up over there too.
You want to go to the Straits of Hormuz? Just pop over there real quick.
We have to jump on a ship. But I appreciate you, man, for always sharing my work. Last time I spoke to you, I was working for the other guy, so it sucked. But now that it's totally different when you're free, independent, and more than ever, people want the raw, unfiltered content, even if they don't agree with you. Yeah. They just, at least you're coming from a genuine spot, and they're like, hey, you know what? At least listen to you, and I think we're in a good spot.
Dude, guys like you, the journalist was almost dead. Yeah, like the old school journalist. What you did, you investigated. You were like a cop without a gun. Mm-hmm. Like that's what you did, and it basically died, and now guys like you have resurrected it. So. It's killer shit, man. It's killer. Check him out. Ventura Reports on YouTube. Jorge Ventura on Instagram is a great follow. Yeah. You're always in my feed. Head over there. He's popping. He's hot. And we're going to collab again very soon. Thanks, dog.
Let's go.
Appreciate it, man. Let's go. Vamos. Peace out.